Hi, I'm Bill Gaines, host of The Outdoor View, the place where we educate, connect, and learn to protect our outdoor traditions. And today I have the absolute pleasure of having with me Mike Borel, who is the Vice President of Operations for the California chapter of the Wild Sheep Foundation. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Hey, Mike, I've had the pleasure of working with you and the California chapter of the Wild Sheep Foundation for several years. And you got something going right now that is really exciting, and it's called the Give a Lamb a Drink program. I really want to dive into that with you. But before we go to that, tell us a little bit about the California chapter of the Wild Sheep Foundation.
Oh, happy to do that. So we are, in fact, a chapter of the Wild Sheep Foundation. And we started the chapter back in 2001. And really, our idea was to bring together people with a passion for wild sheep who wanted to make a difference for California wild sheep. And our number one wild sheep here in California is the desert bighorn. Of course, we got the Sierra Nevada bighorn as well. They've classified the peninsular bighorn separately. It's also a desert bighorn. But we really wanted to focus on California. And there are other state chapters, there are provincial chapters in Canada. We've got some international things going on in the Wild Sheep Foundation. And California, though, didn't have anything particularly going on when it came to political action, when it came to fundraising. And so that's why we started the chapter. Now, in fact, there's a sister organization, which I'm also a member of, and which is part of this Give a Lamb a Drink. That's the Society for the Conservation of Bighorn Sheep. And they've in fact been around for 50 years. But they're a boots on the ground organization that does a tremendous amount of work in the desert, but it isn't their strength to raise money or to be politically active. So Cal Wild Sheep we started ourselves, with a dozen folks came together and said, look, we'll each put a little bit of money in, we'll organize, we'll start to attract members. And our focus will be to really make a difference, and we'll probably make that biggest difference through political action and money raising, fundraising. And so that's what we've done.
But there's no question that you're politically active. I can personally attest to that. But I mean, you're much more than that, because I'm also pretty familiar with the work you've done hand in hand with the Department of Fish and Wildlife here in California, and a lot of the research and habitat efforts that they're doing to help promote bighorn sheep here in the state.
But that's absolutely right. So we're interested in anything that benefits wild sheep, and particularly wild sheep in California. So we do support efforts in adjacent states, et cetera, but California is our focus. And then we also try to be a very good chapter of the International Wild Sheep Foundation.
Mm-hmm. I know that you guys have partnered with the department on helping to fund a lot of the research they do. I know you've been involved in some of the helicopter surveys and the captures and I mean, all kinds of things where the department needed help. You guys have always been there with your checkbook and with volunteer manpower at the same time.
Well, it's absolutely true. And no disparagement to the department, but if it wasn't for the volunteer organizations and their willingness to jump in, it would be a lot less that would be getting done.
Absolutely. And I think we're starting to see some results on the ground too. I mean, with the sheep populations, doing a lot better in the last few years. They have their ups and downs, like all species do, but we've seen a pretty good increase recently, and with the help of SCBS and California chapter of the Wild Sheep Foundation, you guys are helping to make that happen. Well, which leads us to the Give a Lamb a Drink program. I mean, this one I think is really exciting. And I want you to tell our viewers a little bit about it and the role of California wild sheep in that effort.
Absolutely. And I actually believe that this is the largest, most significant in terms of what it'll do for desert bighorn project that's happened or is scheduled for anything with North American wild sheep of any species. Basically it's an effort to strategically place 90 additional water catchments that can collect and store rainwater and provide year-round water for sheep in appropriate habitats. The reality is that we actually have sufficient forage, we have sufficient escape terrain, but what we don't have is sufficient water. And so we absolutely believe that this will enable us to more than double the population of desert bighorn sheep. I used to like to say that it would put us close to where Nevada is. Nevada's still going to have more than we've got, but more than doubling is pretty darn significant. And by the way, we've got over 4,800 today, so you can do the math.
That was my next question, was how many do we have? Yeah, it's not the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of other large ungulates, if you will, in California. It's a very, very small number, relatively speaking, but less than 5,000. And if we can double that, that's significant for sure.
It's huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
And actually the basic math would say that we can, that we could add another 6,700, but I'm not going to go quite that far. But definitely we can double. It won't happen immediately. Mm-hmm. It'll take time, but water's the limiting factor. So if we have the water there, I'm absolutely convinced that we will see the increase in the sheep.
Now, guzzlers for ungulates, not to mention upland birds and so on and so forth, have been around for a while, but these are ones that actually collect rainwater, right? Is that kind of new technology, if you will?
Well, actually, the technology or the format of a drinker, and guzzler was in fact the terminology that's been in use, and we have a number of drinkers out already, and guzzler would be the better terminology, big game guzzler, BGG. But they've all been pretty much the same idea, which is to collect rainwater and funnel it into a tank that can then deliver water. Now that the standard over historically has been to have a tank, an above ground tank, collect the water or have the water from whatever collection device you've got, and then move it into a drinker box that has a float valve. And that's been very effective. It works well. Unfortunately, it has moving parts. And so, they need maintenance and you have to take a lot of care. What we're using in this Give a Lamb a Drink is a new design. It was literally designed by one individual in the Society for Conservation of Bighorn Sheep with lots of help from others in the society. His name's Glenn Sudmeyer. And the beauty of this particular system is it has no moving parts. It uses, the idea is to literally bury the tanks. They have an opening that that the sheep or any game can go into. It's got a tread ramp, and they literally can go right down to the water at whatever level it might be to drink. And they have sufficient capacity that we're absolutely confident that we can store water for a year. Now, the collection device is basically, it's a Hypalon mat that happens to be the same color as the desert sands that we berm up, and it's almost 100% efficient at collecting any water that falls, and then goes through a bit of PVC pipe into these tanks. It's a very simple yet quite elegant solution. so you were asking me, Bill, about what do these things look like? And so here's one of the systems in the installation phase. So by the way, we call them an RWWS, a rain catcher wildlife water system. And this is a tank installation. You can see that the top of the tank, there's 2 tanks side by side. In this case, is we consider a full system, 2 tanks side by side, sometimes 3 if there's space for it. But you can see there's a fairly large opening. That's where the tread ramp is. There's also a manhole over there nearby. Mm-hmm. But go ahead to the next slide. Okay, so this is a completed installation. And so the tanks are buried now. And we have these fake rocks, 3-sided rock in this case. There's 2 individuals there looking into the opening, but that's where sheep or any other wildlife would enter the drinker to get water. And this is just an example before the decorative rocks are up. In this case, sheep came in right away. They weren't waiting for us to get it completed. It is absolutely amazing how these animals can tell when there's water around, and they come for it. So just an example there of a few ewes. There's a lamb in the middle, and you can see what that entry looks like, and how they're standing on a little tread ramp there and drinking water. The manhole cover, you can see that as well. That's used for getting into the tank and doing anything that may need to be done. There really hasn't been anything particular in terms of maintenance so far. And we've got, I'm not sure what our current number is, but 10 or so of these already out and completed. Mm-hmm. And we had 103 guzzler systems out previously. So we're on our way. You can also see at the foreground here the edge of the berm of the hypalon. So there's basically a large mat bermed at the bottom, slight slope to it, that catches the rainwater and then funnels it into the tanks.
Now, Mike, I can tell by looking at these photos that this is in a pretty arid region, right? I mean, talk a little bit about, the areas where we do find bighorn sheep in California.
Well, we've got bighorn sheep pretty much in all of the mountain ranges of the Mojave, and then some adjacent areas too. You're probably aware that we've got hunt zones in several of these. You may not be aware that there's a number of ranges that have sheep that are potential new hunt ranges. And in fact, it was Cal Wild Sheep that funded the survey work that got the most recent and the next most recent units opened with tags. The most recent one is the Newberry Rodman Ords, and there's actually a very high number of sheep in that, and so it's a multi-tag unit, and we were able to get that done. The one before that, actually there's 3 of them that we were absolutely responsible for. The Cadies, which also is a lot of sheep in that unit, multi-tag unit. And then the one before that was the White Mountains, which is a unique desert bighorn habitat because it actually goes up to 13,000 feet and has desert bighorn on it. But the department has a set of criteria. They need to have a sited survey. They need to have it at least 2 years sequentially. There has to be more than enough sheep so that 15% of the class 4 rams seen, which is very conservative, is the maximum number of tags that can be can be granted. And the reality is that we've got bighorn sheep, bighorn rams dying of old age in every single unit we've got in the state every year, because we don't issue that many tags. But there is a system, and we've followed the system and supported getting new units surveyed. An interesting story: we got some new units surveyed in this last year, and the no pause came through with if they were surveyed, it was more than 20 years ago the last time. And there's a number of sheep there, so we need to get a follow on, and there's a potential another hunt zone.
Yeah, I mean, you not only are putting more sheep on the landscape, you're also providing more hunting opportunity as well. So as a hunter myself, and a lot of our viewers being hunters, we certainly appreciate that, because Lord knows in California, the holy grail of big game tags is by far and away the sheep tag. They're tough to get.
Absolutely.
So Mike, you mentioned that you want to put in 90 of these drinkers in bighorn sheep, country. That's got to be an expensive proposition. You have an idea as to what the budget for doing that would be?
Yes, absolutely. So it's the total bill is going to be between $4 and $4.5 million. It's actually, I should probably say 4 and 5 million, because the one part that is really an estimate is if we have to have a helicopter delivery of the tanks. And that's an expense that's a little hard to predict. But the units themselves, the parts to put one of these things in, are just under $30,000 for each one. And then there's 483 hours of labor required to do it. And of course, you can use large groups and you want large groups. Many hands make light work,
right? But
that's a lot of hours. And then there's if we need helicopter delivery of the tanks, that's a significant additional expense. So that takes us up to this $4 to $5 million.
So now these are obviously going in remote regions, is why some of them may require helicopters to get the equipment out there. So you're doing a lot of this digging and so forth by hand, right? You're not getting any equipment out there.
That's correct.
Wow. Yeah. Many hands makes light work for sure. And I think it's worth noting that I would imagine all of those hands, if not darn near all of those hands, are all volunteers.
Well, so far, yeah, I'll qualify that. So in one of our installations in 2021, we hired a crew to give us assistance to find out, could we hire additional labor in order to be able to do more of these in a short time? And it actually worked quite well. So we expect that we'll do more of that. And within that $4 to $5 million total range, we have factored in converting some of the volunteer labor over to paid labor. But we really don't need that until we start to get to, over say a number of 5 systems a year. Beyond that, you really need, you just burn out folks. Now we're also hoping that we get more volunteers. When there's pretty exciting work to be done, I think it'll be easier to get people to sign up to join and be part of it, because it's pretty delighting to see, like that third picture I showed, where you got the tanks buried, you haven't even got the decorative rocks up, and the sheep are already right in it.
Right.
Wow. Now that doesn't always happen. Sometimes they've got to find it, but they always find it.
Well, certainly they're desperately needed. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
They wouldn't find it quite so quick. Yeah. So now you're talking $4 to $5 million. That's a lot of money, Mike. I mean, money. Where does that money come from?
So Cal Wild Sheep has assured all the Department of Fish and Wildlife. We've assured the Society for Conservation of Bighorn Sheep that we will raise the money to get these done. And in fact, we've already raised $614,000 toward this. And we're still, we don't have approvals to be able to install anywhere near the amount of money that we've already got generated. But we're in process. And we will do that. And the Society for Conservation of Bighorn Sheep has said they will take responsibility for the installations, and either with their own volunteers or managing hired ones. So that's basically the system. Cal Wild Sheep is doing the fundraising and supporting. The Society's doing the installations. And of course, the Society also is working with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Bureau of Land Management, Forest Service, whatever land agency is involved, the Mojave National Preserve, and assuring that we've done all the things necessary to get approvals to be able to go forward.
Yeah, now, I guess it's worth noting that none of the dollars for installing these drinkers are tax dollars. There's no public dollars involved or anything like that. This is all generated from donations, right?
That is absolutely correct. Now, the good news is that Cal Wild Sheep is a 501c3, a charitable organization. So donations to this program or to anything in Cal Wild Sheep is tax deductible. And so that, that's a plus for donors. You might be interested to know we've gotten some donations from institutional kinds of folks. Cryptech has been in there. Kuyu has indicated that they're going to be in there. They've done some already. Missouri Foundation has done some. Grand Slam Club Ovis has put some money in. But the large majority of money has come from Cal Wild Sheep members.
That's impressive. And the fact that you've already raised almost $700,000 is pretty impressive as well.
614,500. We've got a good start, and we could put in quite a number of drinkers before we ran out of that money. But we're not going to stop fundraising, because that's a long ways too, from between 4 and 5 million.
Now, what other hurdles do you have in your way?
So these are going to be on one of the following. They're either going to be on a state lands lease, private land that where there'll be an agreement, Bureau of Land Management land, U.S. Forest Service land, or park land. And that could be Mojave, could be Joshua Tree, could be Death Valley, etc. And in any event, regardless of the site, the department, CDFW's got to be a part of it. They need, number one, we want these all strategically placed. And you're aware that there's been a new comprehensive sheep plan in progress now for 7 years. We're still waiting for that, but we know that it's supportive of this water, and that the locations that we've identified all fit within that. We also have the current plan, which was actually circa 1983, but it was in fact the last plan and the one still in play, if you will. Also very supportive of water. It didn't talk about actual locations, but water in the right places would make a huge difference for sheep and for other species. So we know we're in complete synchronization with what's going to really be helpful to this desert bighorn resource. Being within the California Environmental Quality Act is key, and usually there's some paperwork and assessments and clearances that need to happen. But fundamentally, we start with the department helps us with the land agency, whichever that might be, and we go from there. We are pursuing leases on state lands, which is a pretty slick opportunity. I don't know if you're aware, but every bit of state area has a reserved spot for school lands. Well, guess what? We don't need very many school lands in the desert mountains. And so we've identified where all those are, and there's over 90 that are really well strategically located. And we're pursuing leases on those lands now. And I'd like to think we're getting close. I don't want to speak for the state agencies involved, et cetera. They've all got to make their own decisions there, but we've done all the work required to get that approved. And that will be a huge boon because it won't have the same requirements that a pure, wilderness area would have for an installation. So in some cases, we may even be able to use power equipment to dig holes. That would be nice.
Right.
We're probably, in most all of those cases, we're going to be surrounded by Bureau of Land Management or Forest Service land, and a good bit of it will be wilderness. And so we'll still have some restrictions on what we can do in terms of getting things in, et cetera. But it will be considerably less on those lands. And so that's a really key element that we're counting on. And if it wasn't for that, it would probably be insurmountable to add this much water.
What's your time frame? 90 drinkers, not to mention the permitting and all the other steps you just talked about and getting those in place. What's your time frame that you're looking at for successfully completing this program?
Well, this is at least a 10-year project, probably 12 to 15. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to get it done quicker than that. I'd love it. But at the moment, that's probably what's realistic. Because, I mean, if you think about 483 hours for every one, that's a lot of hours. Not to mention, I'm not concerned about the money. That'll be I don't want to say easy, but it's the easier part. The tough part's going to be to be able to just get the manpower and get the agreements, the approvals to be able to proceed. And I think realistically, to 12 to 15 years. I can't think of another project that's got the same potential impact as this one. So this is a really exciting project, not just for California, but for anywhere in sheep country. I think we're going to raise a lot of eyebrows and get a lot of attention, a lot of energy, and I think it's going to be very, very exciting.
Well, I agree with you on that for sure, which is why I wanted to interview you about this program, because I think it's really exciting for sure. And it'll set a great precedent for, like you say, other states or even up in Canada who are looking, over their fence to see what's going on and what works and what doesn't work for bighorn sheep in other areas.
Right.
So Mike, if somebody is interested in contributing to the Give a Lamb a Drink program, or maybe they're just interested in contributing to the California Wild Sheep Foundation, just in general, for all the wonderful things you're doing politically and for habitat research and so on and so forth, how do they get a hold of you guys?
It's very easy. We're a membership organization, so we're always open to persons who have a passion for wild sheep, but for whatever reason, whether it's just because you find them an iconic species that you'd love to know more about, or because you're a hiker and like to see them, or because you're a hunter, you'd be welcome in our membership. We've got a website, cawsf.org. It's pretty straightforward, our name.org. We'd welcome you as a member. It's $50 to join. Then we also have life memberships, and we do a lot of good for sheep, absolutely. And we have a quarterly newsletter, lots of stuff going on. You can see that we've got forthesheep@gmail.com is Beverly Valdez, who is our administrator, if you will, who's the person that's the most accessible of all of us. You can see my name and my email and phone number. I've got a passion for this. all of us are volunteers, so we've got other day jobs, but I never tire of talking about wild sheep, talking about this Give a Lamb a Drink program, and so I'm completely accessible for anything related to this. But you can, if you want to take note of those couple of emails and the website, you can join, you can donate to the organization, you can donate to Give a Lamb a Drink. Or you can volunteer. If you're interested to volunteer to be on one or more of these installations, we can absolutely let you know when we have fixed dates. We've got some coming up actually, and you can be part of it. It generally involves camping out somewhere in the desert, and usually it's because it's hard to do any of this stuff with less than 2 days. So it's very common to get together on a Friday night, camp out, work on Saturday, potentially stay overnight Saturday, finish what we're doing on Sunday. But we can generally do a whole install if there's enough volunteers in that period of time.
That's pretty exciting stuff. And it sounds like it'd be a lot of fun sharing that time with like-minded people that want to do something to help a real iconic species.
Absolutely.
Well, Mike, thanks for coming on the Outdoor View today. This is one of the most exciting habitat-related programs I think I've ever been aware of. And the benefits, I mean, how often do you have a project that's going to double the size of a population of a species? I mean, that's pretty impressive. So kudos to both California chapter of the Wild Sheep Foundation and for the Society for the Conservation of Bighorn Sheep. And for everybody who volunteers and donates. I mean, it's certainly a worthy program. And to you for all the time that you've pumped into this, for the past several years, getting this off the ground.
Well, it's been a labor of love, and it's probably appropriate that I call out some of the early folks in the Department of Fish and Wildlife that really got this started. Dick Weaver was the first Mr. Sheep in California, and he had an absolute passion for expanding water, and he's largely responsible for the fact that we've got 4,800 now versus a tiny number when he started. Then Dr. Vern Blyke came in after him. Vern absolutely had the same passion and just did a ton of work to make this happen. And so honestly, we owe them a real debt of gratitude for pointing the way. And I'm delighted to say that Vern Blyke's still active. He still consults with us all the time. He's very anxious that we can make this fly, because it's exactly what he wanted to happen, but wasn't able to get it to happen while he was still an employee. But very supportive, and we're going to make it happen this time.
I'm confident you will. And I know that in addition to you on the current board and leadership of the California Wild Sheep Foundation, you've got a lot of people that are absolutely dedicated to the conservation of bighorn sheep. And with that team working towards it, it'll happen. And I'm excited to watch things as you continue to move forward on this and get it done.
Well, we appreciate your help, Bill. You've been really fantastic at helping us with contacts in the department, keeping us up to date on the state legislator events and things. So thank you.
Thank you for those kind words. It's been a pleasure talking to you today. Would love to have you back on X number of months downstream for an update to let us know how things are going and chat a little bit more about this program, and looking forward to working with you guys to help you get it done.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. And thank you to our viewers for tuning into the Outdoor View today, the place where we educate, connect, and learn to protect our outdoor traditions. Check us out on Facebook, check us out on our YouTube channel, and certainly check us out on our website at www.theoutdoorview.org.